The story of Stalker 2 is well known at this point. Finally, after delays, a cancellation, and a re-reveal in 2018, the cult classic PC game was set to get a true sequel in 2022. That's before the Russian invasion of Ukraine forced the Kiev-based GSC game world to relocate much of their studio to Prague. And yet, despite all the hardships, Stalker 2 is almost here, and it's looking incredibly impressive. Ahoy folks, Craigo here for Pure Xbox. Now, we managed to get hands-on with Stalker 2 at Summer Game Fest, so here's what Scott McRae thought of the latest build of the game. For context, we had some hands-on time with Stalker 2 at Gamescom 2023, and things weren't looking too good. The game looked rough, the demo was buggy, and it felt a bit aimless overall. Given everything that was going on, it was totally understandable that things weren't exactly shaping up. But the fact still remains that it seemed like a long road was ahead for the game, which made its then 2023 release date a bit of a worry, piled on with the fear that it would launch in a subpar state. Going into Summer Game Fest 2024, we didn't know what to expect from Stalker 2. Bear in mind, it had been less than a year since we last had our hands-on with what was a disappointing demo, so truthfully, we weren't expecting too much. And yet, right away, Stalker 2 caught us off guard. This is the real deal, and it looks fantastic. The game's graphics were the first thing that stuck out to us compared to the Gamescom demo. Something that looked unremarkable by Xbox One standards just under a year ago was now jaw-droppingly beautiful. And maybe not the right word to describe a nuclear wasteland, but you get what we mean. The character models, the foliage, and the lighting were all phenomenal, and clearly taking full advantage of Unreal Engine 5. Obviously, graphic fidelity is not the be-all and end-all of whether a game will be good or not, but it was the first sign that this was far from the game that we played just under a year ago. We had the chance to play what was described to us as the game's opening 40 minutes. You and a companion are sneaking into the Chornobyl exclusion zone in order to investigate it. Naturally, things aren't as simple as just walking through the front door and popping a scanner down, before going home for a nice pint and waiting for the whole thing to blow over. Stalker 2's Chornobyl is oppressive, it's brutal, and it's not going to do your health any good by hanging around here. The series is set in a world where a second disaster occurred in Chernobyl, so things are very much not in a good state. And this brutality doesn't let up when it comes to the game's combat. Those who have played the original Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl back in the day, or the recent Legends of the Zone trilogy, will know that the game is uncompromising. Whilst you can definitely feel that GSC Game World has lightened up a little bit for what is poised to be a game that will be far more mainstream than its previous titles, due in part to it being on Xbox Game Pass day one, Stalker 2 isn't going to be a cakewalk either. The combat in Stalker 2 is weighty. You really do feel every bullet you fire, due in part to the copious amounts of recoil and limited ammo supply. You need to take your shots carefully. Running into a group of enemies and blasting away with a machine gun is certainly possible, but we wouldn't recommend it. The enemy AI is ruthless from what we played, be it humans or mutant dogs. Once you aggro them, they're on your ass until either you or they die. Whilst we played for about 40 minutes, we definitely didn't make it 40 minutes into the game thanks to that. Although it loosens up on how cryptic the original trilogy could be, Stalker 2 admittedly still has some moments that could be explained better. The returning poltergeist enemies, invisible beings who love to launch household items at you and drain your health, definitely fall into this category. How to defeat them didn't really get explained at all here, which could undoubtedly frustrate some players, especially considering how much these enemies threw people off in the original titles. Demos obviously aren't an indication of how the full game will flow, and we hope that situations like this are better explained in the full release. But you can tell that the cryptic nature of Stalker hasn't been fully eradicated in Stalker 2. Despite that, from our hands-on at Summer Game Fest 2024, Stalker 2 is shaping up to be something special. Visually, it's absolutely stunning and dripping with atmosphere. Its immersive sim-style approach to mission design leaves you with so much to play around with and experiment with. And the combat is brutal and satisfying, which makes the already oppressive world even scarier to deal with. Stalker 2 isn't just an impressive game from a studio that has been dealt so many bad hands over the years, it's an impressive game, period. And it's shaping up to be one of the biggest wins for Xbox and Game Pass in 2024 when it finally releases on September 5th. What's your experience with the Stalker franchise? Did you play the originals or the remastered trilogy? Or perhaps neither, and are simply waiting for this mainstream-leaning sequel? Let us know in the comments, and all that's left to say is bye-bye for now. Cheerio!